Hi, I'm Alice Martin with Martin Consulting Solutions, and I'm here to talk to you today about making your strategic planning objectives come true instead of being a nightmare. And there are a lot of different reasons that associations need to have strategic plans, and hopefully you've gotten past that and your association knows that it needs to do that. But there are also lots of reasons why plans fail. And I want to talk to you to give you some tips about 10 reasons why strategic plans fail, and then to give you some suggestions about how you can make sure to avoid those things. And the first one is that many associations don't choose a representative group for their planning committee. They often will have just their board of directors be on the planning committee, and that works if that group is representative of membership, but often it isn't, and they make decisions in their own ivory towers. So make sure you have a representative planning group. The second reason that plans fail often is that you don't have any member input when you're putting your plan together. You haven't done a member survey in years, if ever, or you're not doing any kind of focus groups or any kind of feedback. Make sure you do some kind of feedback before you put your plan together to know what members want, need, and maybe some things that you're not doing that you could be doing. The third one is that associations are often out of sync with what's going on with trends in both real estate, what's happening to their members, what's happening in the marketplace, what's happening in associations, what association trends are out there that they could benefit from learning a little bit more about as they look forward in the future in their strategic plan. And all of these lead into the fourth reason that plans often fail, is you don't get a buy-in. We hear a lot about relevance today and how associations are becoming less relevant, and probably a lot of that is because they're not paying attention to what members want and need, and when they're not doing that, they're not relevant, and they become out of sync with what's going on, and the whole buy-in goes away. You don't have buy-in by your members, you don't have buy-in by your leadership, and sometimes your own staff, because you're just doing things that don't make sense. So make sure that you're paying attention to all of those to get that buy-in. And then the next one is, which frequently happens in plans that I've seen, you have too many goals. You have so many goals, you have pages and pages of a strategic plan, and you look at them, your eyes cross, and you think, how am I going to ever get this all done? Make sure your plan is succinct, short and sweet. It should have maybe 3 to 6 goals and then a bunch of objectives that go along with it. So not to be so overwhelming that you'll want to put it on the shelf. The next reason the plans fail is probably the biggest, in my opinion, is there are no assignments, there's no accountability. You have great goals, really good objectives, and then you put them away and nobody does anything about them. Make sure you assign each objective and let that group know when they need to have that objective fulfilled. They get to figure out the how-tos and how they're going to get there, but if you don't have the accountability, it's going to go away. And it happens much more often than you might think. The seventh reason is a lack of resources. You can have a great plan, you can have accountability, you can have all those kinds of things, but you don't have the resources to carry it out, either financial or human resources, and enough staff, enough volunteers to get done what you need to get done. If you have a really good idea that you know is going to take more resources than you have, put it down a little bit later in your plan and plan for how you're going to get those resources. That can really help you. And one that's tied into that is our eighth reason, and that's no alignment with your budget. Many associations will put their budget together first for the next year, and then they'll put their plan together. That's backwards. Put your plan together first and then budget for what are the priorities for that year. Really helps you to allocate resources appropriately and make sure you have enough money that year in your budget to take care of those particular priorities. And then the ninth reason is no measurements. How do you know that you've gotten there? You've got, again, great goals, great objectives, but if you don't have some kind of a measurement and as quantitative as possible, it will be hard to reach or hard to know you're there, and you can just keep on going and not know you've reached that. So make sure you have measurements. And then the last one is no follow-up. That you have a perfect plan, you've put everything together and you've assigned everything, but you're not paying attention as to whether it's happened or not. So the board of directors and the AE especially need to be monitoring the plan. How's it going? Do they need to touch base with the people they've assigned things to make sure that they don't need any extra help? And it really helps you to stay on top of what's happening, what needs to happen in the following year and the year after that. The second piece that I want to talk to you about is the goals that are very common of associations that I've worked with in 2011. Of over 30 associations, you see a lot of commonality in the overall goals that associations have, and I just want to tell you the top three. The top top first one is an organizational goals, and this financial pieces fit into it. Your resources, both human resources and financial resources, volunteers. Do you have adequate volunteers? You might put leadership development or leadership training in here. Governance, your structure, all those kinds of things fall under an organizational goal. And there are examples for you. I'm going to give you a place you can get some of these resources where you can see examples of those goals and objectives that go with them. So you can perhaps trigger some ideas in your association. The second most popular one is member services, and making sure many of the goals sound like we're going to have, or we do have, relevant goals and objectives that are valuable to members and that we communicate them effectively. So there's several examples of those as well. And the third one, even though it's kind of a distant third, but it is the third priority in many of these as we collect them together, is in community activities, kind of combined in both areas of influence and advocacy and community projects. So again, there are sample goals and objectives that fit there. You can find that particular list of those goals and objectives at martinconsultingsolutions.org/resources, and you can find that entire list. To help you put this all together, there is a draft checklist it's actually more of an action plan template that you can put your goal, your objectives, a place for your how-tos, your actions, your tactics, who's going to do what, when's it going to be due, and a place for status, and you can also add a place for your budget if there is going to be a related budget. And then lastly, there's a template, a checklist for implementation of your plan. Once it's approved by your board, what do you do next? This kind of gives you some suggestions about timing for the next year, how often you should take a look at your plan, how often you should update your plan, just some good guidelines from that. Again, you can find all of these at martinconsultingsolutions.org/resources, and there's a lot more information that you can find about planning. And you can also contact me directly at martinconsultingsolutions@gmail.com, and I'll help you with all of this. Thanks for your time.